Hi, I'm John, and I'm 52 years old. My wife is Serena. She's 47 but looks much younger. She's tall, with long black hair, pale skin, and a great body. Serena stays beautiful by working out and eating well. We've been married for 24 years, and our 25th anniversary is just a month away. We have two boys, Michael and Ben, both married and starting their own families. Luckily, they live close to us, and we see them often. I work for a drug manufacturer in New Jersey, and we produce both ethical drugs and generics. We're one of the largest manufacturers on the East Coast, and the FDA closely monitors us. Recently, our FDA inspector found some issues in our paperwork, so audits became more frequent. I'm the VP of Compliance, and to address this, I've been working long hours and traveling to our warehouse twice a month for the past 8 months. It's been tough, affecting my personal life, but I'm training 3 additional compliance techs to take over, and I'm planning to retire once things are in order. I haven't shared this plan with Serena, as I want it to be a surprise. During a break at work, I went downtown to find a jeweler for a special job. It's our silver anniversary, and I wanted to do something unique for Serena. I found a recommended jewelry shop down an alley. The owner, a Pakistani immigrant, understood my idea. I had a 15-carat diamond ring that I no longer wore, and I wanted it reset into a necklace for Serena. We chose a beautiful setting with 3 small diamonds surrounding the larger one. We agreed on a price, and I handed over the ring. He snapped a picture of the necklace design using his scope, and made a copy for me for safety. It would be ready in about 2 weeks, which was perfect. While heading back to the main street, I noticed Serena coming out of the hotel lobby. Worried that she might ask about what I was doing, I quickly ducked back into the alley. I watched as she hailed a cab, which surprised me because I didn't know of any plans for her to come downtown, especially involving the hotel. As I observed, Bill, a close friend of mine, came out of the hotel and joined Serena. They exchanged words, and she laughed before getting into the cab and leaving. Bill and I had known each other for over 10 years, meeting when I first joined the company. He was our realtor, and he and his wife Sally often visited our home. I wondered about what I had just seen, but decided that maybe Serena was planning something special for our anniversary with Bill's help. Though I had no idea about their hotel plans, I decided to wait and see how it unfolded. I planned to ask Serena about it when I got home. Serena and I lived in a large 2-story colonial in a nice part of town. Thanks to my job and an inheritance from my parents, we were financially comfortable. We had decided not to touch the inheritance until I retired. Now seemed like the right time, especially since our children had moved on with their lives after college. Our house was too big for just the 2 of us, but we loved it and continued to live there. Coming home to Serena was always a joy, and we had a routine of talking about our day. Tonight promised to be interesting, so after entering the kitchen from the garage, I put down my briefcase, hung up my jacket and tie, and made my way to the room we called the library, even though it had few books. Serena was waiting, and we greeted each other before she asked about my day. I told Serena that my day was really productive, and I managed to take care of some things I wanted to get done. I also finished all my work for the upcoming trip to the warehouse. Serena mentioned that she was at home all day, doing some cleaning and straightening up. Her comment about staying home caught my attention because I knew she was downtown around lunchtime. Since she wasn't good at lying, I decided to ask her about seeing Gil lately, making up a reason that he needed to know something about drugs. She said she hadn't seen him since we went to their place about a week ago. The lie seemed to be adding up, and I became more concerned about what might be happening. Serena and I hadn't been intimate for over 6 months. I had tried to initiate it several times, but she always turned me down with various excuses. The last time was on Sunday evening when she claimed to have a sudden headache at bedtime. I hadn't talked to her about it to avoid making her angry, but now I wondered if there was another reason. I suggested having Bill and Sally over for dinner on Friday, but she said she wasn't sure about having dinner that week, and suggested planning it for the following week. I needed to travel next week, so I insisted on doing it this week. I also asked if there was some disagreement with Bill that I didn't know about, as she seemed uneasy when I mentioned his name. She became uncomfortable, and left the room, mentioning something about the bathroom. Considering her reactions and answers, I became certain that she was guilty, and that Bill was involved. When she returned, I didn't push her further. I then brought up our anniversary next month, suggesting a party with friends at our house, catered so it wouldn't be a strain. She hadn't thought about it yet, and asked if that's what I wanted to do. I explained that it might be a good idea, as we haven't been having much fun lately, and I didn't understand why. I questioned our love life, mentioning that she hadn't been in the mood for the last 6 months. She got angry, saying she hadn't been feeling well, but I sensed she was upset because I was right, and she didn't want to tell me why. I felt almost certain about what was going on. I apologized to her, saying I was sorry, and that I would back off. Even though I didn't know her reasons, I decided to make all the plans for our anniversary dinner next month. I suggested she could relax and let me handle the details. I also said sorry for the comment about our sex life, and told her I would wait until she felt better to discuss it. After that, I got up and left the room. In my study, I turned on the TV, although there was nothing I wanted to watch. I needed time to figure out what to do. I realized my trip next week was crucial. If I stayed home, Serena and Bill might be too careful to do anything suspicious. I knew I had to be smart about it. The next day, Thursday, I went to work and called a friend in the electronics industry. We had worked together before, and I trusted him. I explained what I needed, and he told me what to buy. I ordered the items from the supply store he recommended, and they were delivered to my office that afternoon. It's good to have friends in the right places. My plan was simple. I got 10 small voice-activated bugs and 2 receivers. One receiver had a single channel, battery-operated, with a range of up to a mile. The other had a range of just under 300 feet. The short-range receiver would go inside the house to monitor all of the bugs, except one in each room. The other bug would go into Serena's purse, and the receiver would be in her car. This way, if she went anywhere in her car, the bug would pick up her conversations, and the receiver in the trunk could record up to 5 hours from almost a mile away. I placed all the bugs that evening while Serena went to the store and set up the recorder in the basement workshop. I turned on the radio in the spare bedroom and went down to the workshop to listen. It worked perfectly. I thought I might have to wait until she went to bed to plant the bug in her car and her purse. Luckily, she fell asleep early on the couch in the living room. So I glued the bug in her purse and set up the recorder in her car trunk, testing it again. Everything worked perfectly, and now I was ready. Friday dragged on slowly. I really wanted to know what was happening in the house, but had to wait until after dinner to check. I was torn between hoping there was nothing on the tape, wanting my world to stay the same, and fearing that she might be cheating on me. I wondered why she would cheat, and why our love life suddenly stopped. Why didn't she talk to me about our problems? We had a great 25-year marriage, or at least I thought so. What had changed? I spent the afternoon thinking but found no answers. That night our dinner conversation was non-existent, and we missed our usual "how was your day" talk. Serena was moody and seemed lost in another world. I was nervous about what I would find later. The evening passed with only mandatory changes. Eventually, she said she was going to bed early and headed upstairs. After waiting for about an hour, I went up to check on her. She seemed to be asleep, so I went downstairs to the workshop. The recorder showed that it had recorded something. I rewound it and pressed play. Initially, I heard the phone ringing, and it was crystal clear. I knew the recorder was working perfectly. Serena answered, and from then on, I only heard her side of the conversation. I could read between the lines. It went like this. "Hello. Why are you calling me now? What do you want? No. You know I won't meet you today or tomorrow. I won't do anything now until he goes out of town. Yes. Same time and place." After the goodbye, there was only one more call from one of our kids later that morning. No more calls that afternoon, and she didn't leave the house, so there was no need to check the car recorder or anything else. I deliberately stayed away from her that weekend because I felt deep anger in my soul. I knew she and Bill would meet again, despite the pain. I needed to convince myself that I should confirm what I already knew and not try to stop them. I had enough evidence to be sure of what they had done, but I needed more for legal reasons. I planned to wait until after our anniversary party to tell her what I knew and make the anniversary special. The following Wednesday morning, I told her I had postponed my trip and would be traveling next week. It would be a short trip, leaving late morning and returning by dinner. I mentioned wanting to get ready for the party and left for a while. She smiled and talked about looking forward to the party. After waiting for an hour, she finally went to the phone to call Bill. I didn't listen since it was being recorded, and I'm sure they made plans for a different time. The day went well because I was in a great mood. I found myself singing, which was a rare thing for me. But then I realized that this might be the end of my marriage, and it surprised me that I felt good about it. That thought made me cool down, and the pain returned. I wondered what I would do next. I went to the basement, rewound the tape for that day, and pressed play. I heard Serena's voice as she called her lover Bill, saying something like, "Hello. He just told me that he would be changing his schedule for next Wednesday. He's leaving later and he'll be home earlier. We can still meet at lunchtime, but I have to be home early in case he's home earlier than planned. I don't know why he changed plans. He didn't say other than to do some things for the anniversary party. I don't think he knows anything. Bill wouldn't keep it to himself if he knew, but I don't know. Oh, I meant it when I said we have to end this. He may not have to travel much anymore. We'll have to talk later." The rest of the conversation was just like this, with nothing worth keeping on the tape. I erased it and reset it to 0. Serena was going to end it, but it was already too late. I felt hurt as I walked back upstairs. I decided to keep listening and see where it led. For the next 2 weeks, I stuck to my plan. She and Bill kept their meeting for the following Wednesday. I couldn't wait when I came home and went out to her car while she was setting the table for dinner. I retrieved the recorder from the trunk and took it downstairs. Checking the counter, I noted that there were 2 hours of tape used. I was sure it would be very interesting, and I couldn't wait to listen to it. After dinner, I told her I was working on some things downstairs and would only be about an hour. She just nodded, as I usually spent very little time there anyway. She settled down for her usual evening knitting. I listened to the tape, and was rewarded with an hour of them avoiding each other, and her doing things that I considered low-key, but apparently pleased him. It seemed that Bill was as unimaginative as he was foolish. I listened closely to the first part, and then let the rest go as more of the same. What I heard was dull. For the next few minutes, all I could hear was some grunting and groaning, and the bed squeaking as they continued. I listened as my heart grew heavier, hearing the sound of my marriage going down the drain. I couldn't forgive this from either of them. The tape continued for almost a half hour as they continued in the same vein. I couldn't understand what she was getting out of this. Our sex life was far more interesting than what I heard that day. At times, she sounded like she didn't even want to be there with Bill. I turned off the recorder and rewound the tape. To be safe, I made a copy and kept one in my safe downstairs and the other in my briefcase. I thought about extracting some parts from the phone calls and the meeting to create a demonstration tape for later. After that, I went back upstairs and tried to go on with the evening as usual. Just being in the same room with her caused me pain. I looked at her several times, but she seemed perfectly normal. I guess she had gotten so used to cheating on me that she felt nothing when we were together. Something surprising happened just 3 days before the party. As I listened to the tapes that evening, I heard the doorbell ring. Bill came to the house, but I could only hear some of the conversation because Serena kept him at the door. She was yelling at him, saying, "No, not here. Not in my home. Never. Anyway, I told you we were through." This went on for a few minutes, and then I heard the door slam, with Serena storming back into the house, cursing out loud. It seemed like Bill wanted more, and she didn't agree. During those weeks, I contacted my lawyer and made sure the divorce papers were ready. I kept silent around her, speaking only when necessary, and avoiding any time alone with her. She finally noticed my distance a week before the party. She asked if something was bothering me, or if she did something wrong to make me mad. I replied that I didn't know and asked if she thought she had done something to upset me. She said no, and asked why I would think that. I reminded her that I had mentioned our problems, but she wouldn't talk about them and just got angry and yelled at me. Yelling seemed to be her answer for everything. I expressed concern that she might have done something to get back at me, or hurt me in some way. She tried to respond but couldn't get the words out, eventually breaking down and starting to cry. I apologized if I made her cry, explaining that I was just letting off steam. I reassured her that I trusted her with all my heart and soul, and loved her too much to hurt her. Despite my efforts to comfort her, she wiped her eyes and looked at me sadly. She didn't respond, remaining quiet, and eventually going to the kitchen. The subject was forgotten, and we spoke little after that, keeping things tense between us. As for the anniversary party, it was scheduled for Friday night, a day before our actual anniversary. Friday worked best for our friends and our children. Since it was catered, we had little to do other than dress for the party. About an hour before the event, We were together in our master bedroom. I had decided to end my avoidance that morning, anticipating this day. I asked if she planned to wear the beautiful blue dress I bought for her the previous year, expressing how much I loved seeing her in it. She agreed, mentioning she loved it too, even though she didn't think she looked as nice in it as I said. Then she asked about my outfit, and I told her it was just a shirt, tie, and a sports jacket, not wanting to distract attention from her. This brought a blush of pleasure and a smile, a rare sight lately. I wanted her to be happy for the anniversary party, making it memorable. The first guests were set to arrive at 7 o'clock, and we were dressed and ready by 6:45. Seeing her in that blue dress choked me up, and tears filled my eyes. I had loved her for almost all of my adult life, and realizing I might lose her was intensely painful. Overwhelmed, I had to sit down for a moment before my legs gave way. Wanting to give her my gift and create wonderful memories for the day, I told her I wanted to present my gift before joining the guests for the party. I went to the dresser and took out the gold box the jeweler had given me. Inside was the necklace I had chosen for Serena. I moved behind her and fastened it around her neck. When she looked in the mirror, she exclaimed that it was absolutely beautiful. She thanked me, expressing her love for it and the promise to treasure it forever. Turning to show me, she moved to give me a thankful kiss. We shared the moment and headed downstairs. As we descended the stairs, I reflected on what I had told her. It was true that I loved her, but it was also a sad truth that had troubled me over the past weeks. Despite my love, I couldn't forgive her betrayal and failure to confide in me to save our marriage. She had turned her back on our vows and me, choosing another man. It was a betrayal from two people I trusted most, and the weight of it left me struggling for breath each time I thought about it. However, listening to the tape of their afternoon together gave me the strength to proceed with my plans. Everything was set for the anniversary party, and the caterer was ready. We expected 8 others, including our children, Bill and his wife Sally, and another couple we spent time with. Bill and Sally happened to be the first couple to arrive. I shook hands with Bill while Sally went to Serena and embraced her. Despite our long friendship, the evening didn't feel much like a celebration for me, but I had no choice. Bill congratulated me, saying I had the best of everything. I thanked him and acknowledged our 25 years of happiness, adding that things are not always what they seem, hinting at the underlying issues he might understand. Turning to Sally, I held out my hands for a hug. She congratulated me and wished us more years of happiness. I thanked her and expressed a wish for more years together, though uncertain if that was in the cards. I shared this quietly with her and she looked surprised. I shook my head to indicate that now wasn't the time. She led Bill away to the bar for drinks. I observed Bill and Serena heading to the bar, and when I turned to Serena, she was curious about what I said to Sally. I brushed it off, urging her to enjoy the party and assuring her that we could talk later. I emphasized that tonight was about celebrating with our friends and children, marking our 25th anniversary, and cherishing the 24 wonderful years we had spent together. Just as I finished speaking, the doorbell rang, signaling the arrival of the next guests. Our son Michael and his wife Julie entered, followed by Justin and Phyllis, and our other son Ben with his wife Carrie. The congratulations from friends and children quickly engulfed us, and Serena and I found ourselves mingling with different groups eager to discuss our party, house, and anniversary. The evening became lively, with a well-planned dinner catered by experts. However, amidst the joy, I couldn't help but notice Bill and Serena. They circled each other, attempting to find a moment alone to talk. Eventually, Serena grabbed his elbow and led him into a corner. As she spoke earnestly, I saw Bill's initially huge smile fade. When he glanced up and noticed me watching, I looked away. Engaged in conversation with my son Michael about our plans, I remained vague, keeping myself occupied with others until it was time for dinner. As we entered for the meal, I held back until Bill and Serena had taken their seats. Seating arrangements were in place, with my daughters-in-law flanking me and our sons surrounding Serena. The dinner was delightful. After finishing the meal, I stood up to give a toast to friends and family. I had carefully planned my speech for this moment. Tapping my knife against my wine glass for attention, I expressed gratitude to everyone for attending this special occasion and raised a toast to all present. Concluding, I raised my glass to my beautiful wife, Serena, ensuring that all attention was on her as I deliberately set my glass down without taking a sip. As the dinner concluded, people gathered in the family room for dessert, and only Serena could see me. Bill approached, expressing concern about my mood. He mentioned that both Sally and Serena were curious about what might be bothering me. I assured him that nothing was wrong, but he insisted that I seemed out of sorts that evening. I told him there was something I needed help and advice with, inviting them for breakfast the next morning at 8:30 to discuss it. Bill agreed, curious but willing to keep it a secret, thinking it might be job-related. I assured him it was a surprise, and I wanted to share it with everyone at the same time, even keeping Serena in the dark for now. As the party winded down, guests began to leave, and I circulated the room to thank everyone and bid them good night. I was eager for the evening to end, as it represented a life that no longer existed. Bill and Sally were the first to leave, followed by other guests. Before departing, Sally approached me, offering to talk if needed and expressing her willingness to help if there was a problem. She gave me a hug, and as they left, I thanked her and said I would see them tomorrow. The caterers were finishing up as I walked into the kitchen the next morning. I had made arrangements for them to clean up and take away any perishables. I looked around for Serena but didn't find her. I inquired about Serena, and I was told she had said goodnight and gone upstairs. After the caterers left, I turned off the lights and went upstairs. When I entered our bedroom, I saw Serena still dressed, sitting in one of the chairs in our sitting area. I took the other chair and felt a deep crushing pain as I looked at her. Despite the pain, I smiled and mentioned that I thought the evening had gone well. Serena returned the smile, but I could sense her concern. She asked if she could talk to me about something related to the party, and I encouraged her to go ahead, emphasizing that we shouldn't keep secrets from each other. She questioned why I set my drink down during the toast I made to her at the party. I admitted I didn't know and asked for her thoughts. She expressed uncertainty and mentioned that I hadn't said anything about her doing something wrong. Then, she inquired if she had displeased me in some way. Once again, I replied that I didn't know. I then asked if there was something she had done that would make me angry, but she insisted she didn't know what was wrong. Apologizing, I told her I didn't quite believe her, sensing serious problems in our marriage. I explained that I was too tired to discuss them that night and decided to sleep in the guest room. I left, walked down the hall to the guest room and closed the door. Though I had never slept there or locked my loving wife out of our bed before, the pain of doing so was almost unbearable. I checked my briefcase for the things I needed the next day, undressed, turned off the lights, and lay down on the bed, knowing sleep would be elusive. About an hour later, I heard a small knock on the door and Serena's voice asking if she could come in. I didn't answer, and she eventually stopped, returning to our bedroom. I lay there with tears finally coming and fell asleep, haunted by bad dreams. I woke at my usual time of 6:45, but decided to stay in bed a while longer. Typically, I would be downstairs for breakfast by 7:15, but that morning I wasn't hungry. I didn't feel like eating. I stayed in the room until I heard her go downstairs, then went to the bathroom. I returned to the room and stayed until almost 8:15, then went down with a heavy heart to face her. In the kitchen, she sat at the table without moving or looking up as I entered. Trying to act normal, I said, "Good morning. Is there any coffee? I could really use a cup." I poured a cup of bitter coffee from the machine, drank it despite its taste, and sat across from her with a newspaper, waiting for Bill and Sally to arrive. I hadn't told her they were coming, so it would be a surprise. As I folded the newspaper, she looked up and asked in a quiet voice if I suspected her of something. I noticed she had been crying but wanted to wait until Bill and Sally arrived to discuss it. Just as I was about to say something, the doorbell rang. She looked surprised and wiped her face before answering the door to find Bill and Sally. In surprise, she asked why they were here at this time, but Bill explained that I had invited them last night. Sally noticed Serena had been crying but didn't press. Serena welcomed them, then came to find me, asking why I invited them and what was going on. Without answering her, I walked into the hallway, welcomed them, and faced all three with 2 large envelopes. I told them I had been working long hours and decided to retire. A week ago, I resigned, and now it's time to rest. Serena wondered why I hadn't told her, mentioning she would have supported my decision. Bill agreed, suggesting I shouldn't work for a company that doesn't care. I expressed my gratitude for their support and revealed my plan to take my wonderful wife on a trip starting on our 25th anniversary, booked for Miami, and followed by a sea cruise. Serena then asked what I meant by planning to take her on the trip. I paused for a moment, knowing this was a crucial moment. I dropped the bombshell. expressing my concern about her meetings with Bill at the hotel on Wednesday afternoons if she wasn't going to be home. All three faces were now fixed on me, and the truth was out. I walked to the table and pressed play on the recorder with excerpts of their conversations. The tape played Serena's talks with Bob. I turned it off, watching the reactions of the three. Serena looked stunned, like I had slapped her. She sat down, covering her face, and whispered, "Oh, please God, no." Bill appeared shocked, but Sally's face showed anger. Serena sobbed openly, asking how long I had known and pleading to let her explain. Sally, furious, stood up and slapped Bill, then turned on Serena, accusing her of ruining 2 marriages and calling Bill a lousy lover. I intervened, telling Bill to leave my house, never wanting to see or speak to him again, feeling betrayed by a supposed friend. I informed Sally that I had something for her, urging her to take it. I gave Sally a complete record of phone calls between Bill and her, and it's quite detailed. It might help her if she decides to divorce him. I handed her a big envelope with these records, and she stormed out of the house, with Bill following, looking confused. I hoped Sally would make his life difficult after that. Turning to Serena, who had been sobbing, I told her that she had destroyed Bill and Sally's marriage, 2 of our oldest friends. I questioned whether it was worth it, and reminded her that Sally was a kind woman who didn't deserve this. Serena cried, insisting she needed to explain. She said I'd been busy and she felt alone. Bill was just being a good friend, and it went too far, but she promised it wouldn't happen again. She begged me to forgive her and let her make it up to me. I listened patiently, then handed her a second envelope. I told her these are divorce papers, prepared last week after I quit my job. I wanted a simple and quick divorce. If she didn't contest it, she'd get the house and a sum of money. But if she contested, I'd use everything from her affair in court and fight to take everything, leaving her with nothing. Serena fell to her knees, crying, begging for a chance to make it right. I then explained to her that I'm leaving for what was supposed to be our anniversary trip. I left instructions with my lawyer on how to contact me and handle the divorce. I made it clear that I don't intend to see or talk to her again. I plan to call our sons and inform them about our situation, letting them know the truth if she fought the divorce. I mentioned that I'd written letters to our sons detailing what happened and how she betrayed me. If she accepts the divorce terms, they will never see those letters. Instead, I intended to tell the boys that we had some problems. Our marriage was over, and we decided to separate. I hoped they wouldn't think badly of me. Serena was completely shattered, lying on the floor sobbing. Despite seeing her in pain, I couldn't feel anything. The memory of her words to Bill in that hotel room gave me the strength to turn away and leave. As I walked out, I heard her sobbing in the house where we had raised our family. I had tickets to Miami, hotel reservations, and enough money for a comfortable life. I wanted a fresh start, hoping to regain my lost innocence and trusting nature over time. I was tired of supposed friends betraying me, tired of trying to save a broken marriage when she never communicated our troubles. Serena chose her pleasure over my needs, and I was tired of expecting trust from those I loved. I shut the door on 25 years of my life and drove away, starting the second half of my life. The first half hadn't been all bad, but it ended badly. Maybe this time would be different. I had no clear plan for the future, but I was determined to be a different person. I had learned valuable lessons. No more blind trust, no more taking things for granted, and no longer working for someone else's benefit. From now on, I decided to focus on taking care of myself and let others handle their own affairs. As I drove away from my home for the last time, I glanced in the rearview mirror. I saw Serena rushing out of the house, looking at my leaving car, and then collapsing in the driveway. I slowed down to observe, feeling a bit of satisfaction. Maybe she truly cared, perhaps enough to feel the pain I endured since discovering her betrayal. I released the brake and pressed on the gas, heading towards my future. In the end, our divorce was completed and everyone got what they deserved or didn't. Sally and Bill didn't resolve their issues either, and I still occasionally keep in touch with her. That's how my 25-year marriage came to an end. Thanks for listening. Please share and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Take care.